Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. My name is Katana Malinowski, and I am the host of Transformational Art with Katana, making the unmanageable manageable. Welcome. Today, I have as my guest, my first guest on my brand new podcast, Transformational Art with Katana. His name is Roger Burnley, and he is an intuitive empowerment life purpose coach. We are going to get to know you better today, Roger. So thank you for being on the show.
Katana, thank you so much for having me here. You have no idea how perfect this is, the timing, and that it's your first show. I am loving this. And people will hear the perfection of how this came about. Okay, that it's your first thing, and we're going through a big change in our world, which is why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And then you're bringing me here because I understand what we're all doing, and now we're going to help everybody else do that. So no, I'm thrilled.
What an amazing process. So thank you. Who are you as a person?
I am a person who's been on this long journey of discovering and figuring out who I was, which is why I used all those words in my title. Intuitive empowerment life purpose coach, and all of those things I came to very slowly, gradually. And I want to talk about that because a lot of people don't know, understand some of the processes that they might go through as they're living their lives. And, especially when we go through troubles and all of that. And then when we come to places where the world is going a bit crazy, then we get to feel a little lost. But I say this because I know that we all have a purpose, every single person. And that purpose is important. Our world would not be what it is. It would not evolve unless every one of us here offered who we are to the mix. I call it, it's like making a cake. What ingredient would you leave out of a cake that you wanted to taste really good? You just wouldn't. And so that's every person is that, but we've forgotten that. We just forget it as we go through our lives. But then we have big events like what we're going through that cause that to happen. But to answer your question more specifically, I was a person in the beginning, had no clue where I was going. And I definitely wouldn't have been talking about anything like this. Wouldn't have done it.
I can completely resonate with that.
Yes.
I would have never thought that I would be here today having the discussions that I'm having with such amazing people. And we're all on this journey and using, these different skills and modalities that we've learned over the years that we just thought were part of our experiences.
Yes.
But they were actually gifts for us to help transform the world along with our own transformation. So it is beautiful and amazing.
So let me tell you why you're perfect, why your timing is so great, because you don't know this. You didn't. The fact that we be scheduling it on this day, and 10 minutes before we came on here, I released publicly a video that I had recorded several days ago. But I said, I'm going to wait and see how the world looks before I put that out there. And what I called the video is My Big Truth. That's what I said. I said, yes, and I'm taking a take on what's going on in the world, because none of us are owning who we are, our truth. And we allow certain things to kind of take over. But wait a minute, no, we're the ones who came to be the loving people, to offer something different to the world, but we're not doing that. Because we start judging ourselves, we start holding back. And the reason I say it's also perfect, because you see the background that I have is 4 Weeks to Your Best Life. That's a program that I did. And I had to push myself in December to release it, because I would have done what everyone else does, how we hold back and don't do things. So which is why I'm so glad you're doing your podcast now.
Oh, wow. That is alignment. That is alignment right there.
Yes.
That is. So what makes you happy?
To see people happy. Okay, that sounds so crazy. And I'm just gonna, and people see me, they're gonna think none of this makes any sense at all. Most people see me, if they've known me, because I started in the more in the public domain where more people might have known me as a vocal coach, because that's where I got really known all over the world. But I always did this other stuff, I didn't talk about that all the time. But the vocal coach was the thing that I had been known for. But so because of that, I held myself back because this doesn't seem real. I couldn't be coming up with something else that I'm supposed to offer. I'm saying this because every single person has this. And at times when we go through stress, it might cause it to come up and we'll look at it. But then we still get a little afraid. No, it can't be true. Couldn't have been me. I'm saying that because that's what I did with this program. You see, I did that. That's why I had to do it in December, because I wanted to be an example for everyone else. I wanted to say what you have felt in your heart is real. What you have thought, the reason that you were born and why you're in the world, that's real. And all you have to do is trust it and jump into the waters now. And more of us are supposed to do that now. That's why the world is the way it is. It's asking us to step up. And you answered because you're doing the podcast.
Yes. And yes.
Yes.
That's what I think is so important about, bringing more happiness
Yes.
to ourselves
Right.
and to others. We each have, happiness breeds more happiness,
Mm-hmm.
but happiness also breeds, I think, more success. And that can be success in
Right.
relationships, and that can be success in business,
Mm-hmm.
and also in learning and knowing who we are.
Wow. Oh, Katana, that's good. Let me tell you what you just brought up, because my Wilhelm, I channel, and my guide is Wilhelm. And forever they've told me, your definition of success, you may have been confused. A lot of you were confused about your definition of success, because you would know you were successful if you felt good. Oh, is that it? Yeah, if you felt good and follow those good feelings, you would be successful. And then, as you just said, that kind of feeling brings the money. It brings all the things that we think are success. Do you see? But when we're not being ourselves, that can't happen.
Right.
And that's what it is. And it's been a struggle for me. It's funny because I have to keep talking about it, because I've been doing this and I've been hearing them since 1988, and it seeps in, it gets there. But right now is the period for many of us where it seems a little intense. That's because we had this agreement to be here now to cause something to happen, to actualize ourselves, because we knew that if we did that, the world would start to change. We would see all this stuff start to go away. We're not going to say it happened tomorrow, but we do know that if we start planting something, to give it time, fertilizer, it'll grow. And that's what we're meant to do now. And it's fascinating that we're still in the effects of the new moon, which was like yesterday, today, or whatever, depending. And that is when we're meant to put the new ideas and plant them into ourselves and into the world. So this is perfect.
Wow, that is wonderful. Yes. I woke up just the other night about 2 a.m. with more new information coming in.
Right.
And of course, it always comes at 2 or 3 a.m.
Yep. I know. Yes. I was starting to sometimes I would get the same times. I go, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
Mine was always around 3 or something. And then if you do a search, you will find that there's so many people, so many of us, however we might call ourselves, who have the same experience. And the reason, and I kept questioning, why is that happening? I'm Dr. Wayne Dyer. Do you remember him?
Yeah,
Dr.
I'm
Wayne
very
Dyer?
familiar. Yes.
Okay. He said that. He would talk about it all the time. And he said, well, yeah, they said, that's when you're paying attention. That's when you can hear us. Do you see? Because we're out of our consciousness. If you think about it, it's the same idea, a principle basically behind meditation. When we're meditating, we become still, we become quiet. We all have intuition. We're all connected to source, or whatever term we use, but we don't typically hear that when we're moving through our days, when we're dealing with our insanity, our work, or our families, our spouses, whatever it is. But then when we're asleep, that consciousness is cleared. And so the information can come through. you're paying attention.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, now here comes the converse part of that. And
Right.
what is it that makes you sad or angry?
Well, why do you think I did the video today? Why do you think I said in the video? I said, okay, wait a minute. This is what I said. And on the caption I put in when I shared it on social media, I said, okay, I recorded this video several days ago. And I waited because I wanted to see if I had to release it publicly. Because I kept waiting and looking outside at the world to see if it had changed. And then I noticed it hadn't. So then I said, oh, crap, that's because I haven't. That's because I haven't done it. So you mean it's up to me to do that? Yeah. So that's why I had to put the video out. And that's for all of us. That's what we're coming to now. We're being pushed into these places that are uncomfortable sometimes because we're not used to owning ourselves. We're not used to owning our beliefs and what we feel. So this time we're being asked to put it out there. It's like, oh no, I can't do that. And we got to do it. And so I said, I put that out. I said, let's make this go viral. Let's make I put a hashtag, the big truth, because the big truth is that we each are powerful beings. That's the big truth. We each have so much potential. We've been given everything, and we just access it at certain times in our lives. And hopefully this will be a time for more people to do that.
Yes, and
Mhm.
I find that not everybody is able to hear
No.
or
And
understand
right.
those
Exactly.
messages that come to them.
Yes.
They feel the frustration
Yes.
from the inability to recognize what their purpose is. I know because I was there at one point myself,
Right.
where I was just trying to grasp, what is it? Why am I here? What am I
Yes.
supposed to do? All of the things that I had been through, I was thinking, there's got to be something.
You just
And
said
I
it.
would appreciate some type of sign.
You just said it all. No, you already have it. Okay. This is exactly it. Everything you have lived, we each know we've had stuff in our past. We've had a whole bunch of crap we had to go through. But
Yes.
all of that, we meant to do that because we got through it. See, we did that. And now the purpose is to bring it back to the world. And what you said in the beginning, you have an awareness that certain people cannot hear you. You know that. So now what you're tasked with is figuring out a way to give the information that they can hear you, and that you are becoming, and in that process, you all of a sudden become more empowered, and maybe they shift, maybe they get something. But your thing is because you understand it on such a deep level, so you've got to, they can't get it. And if they were to understand, if they were to have the right information, then maybe something would change. It will take some time, but that would be the process. And that's what you're doing. That's why you're here.
Yes. And helping others unlock their ability to hear
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
receive, I believe, is part of their healing. I
And it's
believe.
part of you, but it's exactly what you did. How you
Yes.
did it, how you came about that, that's what you're supposed to give back to everyone else. Exactly the way you did it. It's that.
I love it. I love all of these ways that we all have,
Exactly. Yeah.
because it's for every person. When you really get down to it, there's so many of us. Why? Because there's so many different people that hear differently and
Mhm.
receive differently. And it allows them to hear us, and then our experiences and our gifts
Mhm.
are there to help them unlock that within themselves. And what an incredible,
Yes.
that in itself is an incredible gift.
What I kept receiving, and it took me a long time to understand that. I get it now. But what kept coming through the channeling sessions with Wilhelm, they would say, "You are unique and the same."
Yeah.
I went, "What are you talking about?" What does that mean? They said, each of us are on an individual evolutionary journey. Our souls are here filling out some aspect of us. We don't always know what that is, but it is an evolutionary journey that is unique. It's endemic to us because it's composed of our ancestors, our bloodlines. It's all of that stuff. So that's why it's very different. But we are all here now because we've limited ourselves. We've restricted something. It's in our lives this time, or our past lives, or whatever it might be, our other lives, however people think of it. But we have the opportunity now to move through that, to break through and do something different. We didn't know what all this stuff was. We just lived. Our experiences showed us that. It was funny. I was thinking about this. I heard Steven Spielberg say this, I think, one day. He said, they were asking him about his life purpose. And he says, I think it just kind of sneaks up on you. You look back. Yeah. It just
that
sneaks
is a
up on you.
beautiful explanation too, because
Yeah.
it really does. Just
Yes.
boom, there it
Yeah.
is. And you're like, oh, okay.
And then my Wilhelm said to you, and they said sometimes that self-discovery can be frightening. It makes us uncomfortable because, oh, wow, wait a minute, I'm going into being someone else. That means I have to go into this unknown place. I'm not really comfortable with that unknown place.
It really is uncomfortable.
Yes.
I will say that
Yes.
has been transformative for me.
Right.
Because in a previous life, wearing a different hat, I felt very comfortable standing up, standing strong, standing loud in my authentic voice. It wasn't that it wasn't authentic, it was just different. And it was for a different purpose, to serve a different purpose.
Yes.
And when I was asked to step into this role that I'm serving now, it took me a lot longer to become loud and stand in that same strength.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Because it was terrifying.
Yes.
But here I am, and I wouldn't go back for anything.
And that's why you're going to help others. That's why you're going, because my guide said, we took you through all kinds of craziness. We took you through all kinds of weirdness because you have to get settled now. You have to become comfortable with the new part of yourself to help everyone else. And that's always what is going on. It's just been really kind of fascinating to see all of this happening. And okay, let me go back. I had been given information, is what I was told, and I couldn't accept that. Before I knew it, before I was born, and I was given something that I was supposed to bring to the world, and that was going to be valuable somehow for me and other people. That doesn't make any sense. I screwed up my life. I was a crazy person. I did all this. How could that have happened? Yeah, but that's why. Because we were meant to move through that stuff so we could clear up our karmic stuff, whatever it might have been, to be available now, because the shift that is happening is galactic. Everything is moving. And even when you look at the connection of our planets and stars and everything, it's moving into a new era. This is that Aquarius age. And we thought we knew what that was before, but no, it's different. We're coming into it now because we need to come together. It's about, we know this in all religions, that there's a strength in wholeness. We're each trying to become whole, but we're trying to become whole individually because that causes the world to become whole. When we start loving ourselves, when we think about it, they would, in my sessions, they would point this out. If you think about this, if everyone were actualizing who they were and feeling really happy and content, you wouldn't be fighting anyone. You would just be offering the gifts that you were given. But that didn't make sense to me. I said, no, I can't be. And so then that's why I pushed myself in December to do this program to see, am I going to get any results from this? Am I a crazy person? Was I really given something? Even though I tell everyone that I work with, you have something. We just have to find it. I know it's there. And so I'm like, wait. And then, so doing this program, and I have to say this, and I'm still settling with it, but everyone, I had only 15 people in this thing. I just wanted to try it out in the beginning. Every single one of them moved in ways that I could not believe. Every single one. And it was just amazing. And I'm still becoming comfortable. I'll tell you, because I was like, okay, I've done this many times. I'll like create something that's a good result. Really? That was there? Every single person will have that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, that's perfect. Because I'm really curious as to how did you get on the path you're on now?
I was forced. I was beaten up so much and I had to go. I resisted it my entire life. I just got to tell you, I had so many things that I could feel, in the sense that there was some other part of me that was there, but I did not want it to go out because the other part of me needed to fit in. I needed to be accepted. I felt such a lack of belief in myself that I just went along with everyone else. Let me try to fit in and do everything. Then I became a people pleaser, which was perfect for my work now. It's okay. I developed that skill because now I'm so attentive to my clients, where I used to judge it before and get in, and allow it to really mess me up. Now I understand it in a different way because it's what keeps me going. If I can, when I see people come alive, because I had such a terrible life. I know that probably sounds, not terrible, but I had many, many challenges that people wouldn't believe. They would not, they look at me and they would never, because I'm always happy. I'm always smiling. I'm always this guy. And you see, people comment on that all the time. They have no clue as how many times I almost died. How many different illnesses I went through, how many times the time in the hospital where I was just minutes away from dying because they had let me hemorrhage and didn't know that was happening as I'm lying in a hospital. But I mean, there's so many, being in a fire and not seeing my way out at 12 years old, falling through the ice, not being able to swim, and just all of them. But now I know that all of those things were things that I wanted to move through. I'm just saying that way. I just want people to think about it that way, that I wanted to move through them, because once I did, then I no longer fear them. I no longer have them holding me down, holding me back. And that's what we're all attempting to do. The wonderful thing, as my Wilhelm said, oh, you guys, you got to find this out. See, because you go through your life trying to be somebody else. You think you're always searching for that other thing that you're trying to do. And then you get to the end, and then you discover you were just trying to be yourself.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow. That's super incredible. I can completely relate to this. It seems that the more I get to connect with people that are doing the work that we do.
Yes.
We have some profound stories to share.
Yes.
And many are very similar. And I find that to be pretty interesting, that there are just these paths of such great, I don't want to use the term difficulties, of course they are, but they're challenges that we overcome.
Right, exactly.
And that's the real focus. Is there were challenges.
Yes.
And we overcame them. And it was through those challenges that we're able to be here to help other people see that there are ways to overcome their challenges as well.
Correct. And I'm glad you said that, because I had so many challenges, and I want other people to understand that sometimes you can look at those and then you use them to judge yourself, because you don't understand why they've happened.
Yes.
You don't understand why you and then especially if you're repeating them. If you've done them over and over again, then you must really be a horrible person. No, you're just working through something. And sometimes you're working through things that you don't even have a memory of. Maybe they came from your parents. We can see pretty much that we carry traits of our parents and all of that. We all yell about that when we get older. I'm turning into my mother or my father, and we hate that. we were supposed to, because we're also supposed to transcend it. We're supposed to transform where they were,
Yes.
but it would seem natural, logical that we would still carry some of those energies. The way this came up, and I didn't know it was going to happen, but it was during a channeling session, and I had my DNA done, my DNA test, and so they kept telling me, if everyone, you guys have technology, and if everyone would do the DNA test, your world would start to shift, because what you would discover, like I did, is that we have bloodlines that go everywhere, all over the world. We're connected. And so, I kept making the joke. I go, how am I 14% Scottish? That doesn't make sense.
I had the same experience.
That's what I see. That's what I'm talking about. And so when more of us start to see that, we let down our defenses, our guards, we say, okay, these are my brothers, these are my sisters. Let me kind of bring things together. And now that's why we're all here.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow. So powerful. Okay, so that's gonna lead me to, what is your superpower?
My empathy. I think, and it's the thing that I judged most of my life, because I was always that guy. I was always that empathetic person. I was always helpful, but then also it was dangerous a little bit, because I didn't have boundaries. So I could be taken advantage of very, very easily. And so I had a lot of trouble with all of that. So one of the things that I do when I'm working with my clients is first getting them to acknowledge and own their worth, because that's hard for us sometimes. we don't get there, which is why I said I wanted to tell you why I had all the different names in my title. And so I'm an intuitive empowerment. So the intuitive thing, that's always been, and that's the last thing that I told anyone. That's the last thing that I talked about. And then my Wilhelm said, typically, the thing that you fear the most is your gift. Yeah, that's what we do. But that's kind of a good, though, because then it's always out there. You're going for it. You're still moving toward it. So you're getting there. So, but the intuitive part, I started using that in the last few years. I kept people couldn't figure out why I could do certain things when I was working with the client. Why do I get this information? Why does it come to me? We all have it, but I've just purposely, I just practice. That's all. That's no different than me. It's just that other than I practiced for a while and my life kind of led me there. And so that was the first part of it. But then I had to do the empowerment thing. I didn't know because we can't do anything if we don't feel a sense of empowerment. And when we have all of these things that we think we did wrong, or that we screwed up, or these difficulties we don't understand, we do not feel empowered. So if we can reinterpret that, what I have everyone do is reinterpret their lives. I say, we're going to rewrite your history right here, because that's what's holding you back. Some people think, oh, we're not going to look at your history. Well, then you're going to stay where you are, because it's in there. It's implanted. And it's implanted probably with ideas that were incorrect, ideas where you thought you failed, ideas where you thought you made a mistake. And that's what's sitting there. And that's why you can't move now. Do you see?
That's a good point that I would love to have you expand upon, because, and I'm gonna, I'm going to I'm going to take a step here that might be a step that some might be uncomfortable with.
Okay.
But in Western traditional medicine, in psychotherapy, which I went through for 22 years of, the history is where they want you to move away from. They don't want you to look back. You're going to repeat your mistakes if you look at your history, if you focus on your history. And to this, of course, I look at this and say shenanigans.
Yes, exactly.
My favorite word. Because I believe the empowerment comes from being able to look at the history and not live it, but know how to move forward from it. Could you speak to that a little more?
You're meant to extract the wisdom from your history.
Yes.
That's exactly, because you gained it. You, whatever was, you gained wisdom. You gained information from whatever that was. And so we have to reinterpret that. But then we have to go back. I take people back even further, because there's certain things that we don't understand from our childhoods, and we will blame everything on our parents or how we grew up and all of that. And so then we just keep perpetuating that throughout our lives. So I take them through a process. I go, how to have a happy childhood? And people look at me like, no, I didn't. I go, yes, you did. And I said, no. They tell me all the horrible things that happened as a result of their childhood. And it's okay, let's work with that. So I'll take them back through, we'll look at each thing. I say, write it down. Now talk about how horrible it was and what it did to you and all of that. Okay, great, done. Now look at it again and ask yourself, what did I gain? What did I gain? Who am I now because of that? And you may take you some while, because you may have had so much resentment and hatred about that whole experience that you've put up blocks so you can't see it. However, eventually, just asking that question, it's going to come to you. And that's what happened for me, because I'll tell you one story where this came up. When you're talking about psychotherapy, I was in therapy for quite a while, and so I, delving into all of that stuff, and I just and I thought, okay, now I've figured out this relationship with my parents, and it's my father's fault that I'm this way, and I've got to go and talk to him about it. And so we're going to go and we're going to have a talk. And so I went to his house and I said, I've been in therapy forever, and I've discovered all these problems that I've had, and I've carried them on forever, and it's your fault. If you had been different, I wouldn't have gone through this. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me. He just sat there and he just stared at me. And then he waited for me to be done. And then he said, you had it better than most. That was all, Katana. And I looked at him and I go, well, that is true. I could see that. I can look out and certain things were different, but I'm not starving on the street. I'm not. You've had it better than most. So then I said, oh, that means I'm supposed to take this now and do something with it and not blame somebody else for where I am. You mean I'm supposed to do that? And so then this father, who was so unattentive, became a motivator for me now.
Yeah.
Because I said, oh, wow. And then when he died, he gave me another gift, because I used to, I performed all the time, and I would, at different clubs and stuff, and I would send him, this is when I was singing and performing, and I would send him an announcement of what I was doing. Now, parents don't typically want you to do things in this area because it's too scary. It's not secure, it's all of that. So I would send him these announcements, and he never said a word. Never said it. And I thought, okay, he doesn't care. And I would talk to him about it too. I'd call him up and I say, oh, I had this show, and I just kind of go, you just listen. Okay, great. Never said anything. And I thought, he doesn't care. Or maybe he thinks I'm terrible. Maybe he doesn't want me to be hurt or something. I don't know what it was. And then I go back to Chicago. And this went on for years that I did this. And then he died. And then I go back to his home, and we're cleaning out the house. And Katana, I go there, we go to a dresser drawer. I'll never forget it. I open the drawer, and on the top of the drawer, what was every announcement that I had ever sent him over the years. It was stacked right there all together. He was just holding them. He was proud, but he also wasn't secure enough that it was going to work. He didn't know. And that's what parents do. They're not sure. But I interpreted it as, no, I shouldn't do it. Maybe I'm bad. Maybe I'm all of that. You see? That's what we do. So we have to rewrite those programs. But it was
Yes.
such a gift to see that.
Yes. To see them as the humans and individuals that they are.
Yes.
And what they see the world through, and how the lenses that they bring to things.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that's been, to use the word again, transcendent for me.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to see these people from my past through the lens of innocence and their pains and fears, and go,
yeah,
I get it.
Right. Yeah.
I get it.
One of the best things for me in this, going through all of this transitioning that we're all doing, And I wish more people would have done this. And this came out actually in some of my channelings, is studying history. When we look back at history, we can kind of see patterns that have gone on in our world, patterns of change, patterns of transitions and all of that. And when we see that, we know that we're not quite as afraid. We know that it's something that we're doing as humans to shift the world, and it gets better. We can look back. They did the last thing, and we did on Sunday. They said, just think about how, if you look, you have things to look at, your history. You can open books and see photos of what things looked like 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, or even more. How do you think it changed? It changed because people came in and saw, okay, there's something more here we're supposed to do. And they started doing it. They started figuring it out. They didn't fight with one another they did fight, but they eventually came together to figure something out. That's what the whole thing, I got to talk about this too, because they wanted, what they kept talking about with this pandemic. They said, that's the thing that you've used to cause more separation. And it was meant to cause more unity. It was meant for you to come together and figure out how to cure. You've had these things forever. Viruses are not new. They've always existed. And so and they interact with humans. That's how the world works. So to make it out to be something else instead of a transition, a higher part of humanity is being birthed. That's what's really happening. And so when you go through those transitions, some people die, some people awaken. That's what happens. It just always goes on. And if you look at it, you're not as afraid. I'm saying this now because that's what I did. I didn't know so much about even the Spanish flu, the pandemic there over 100 years ago. And when you go back and study that, anyone who would have done that, studied that, oh my goodness. The similarities, you could not have missed them. There's so many, they're all there.
Yes, it's incredible to see the similarities that have happened time and again.
Yes.
And the responses have been similar time and again.
Exactly.
And that was even more intriguing to me to see, how humanity's response overall to these global experiences, sometimes isolated to continents, but generally there's a global effect, whether it's in one location or not, because then everybody's going to be prepared to respond or even react, which is not necessarily the better side of it, but it is a real part of it. It's eye-opening, and I do believe that it is it's like a reset.
Yes.
It's a time for us to take a closer look at our relationships with ourselves and our relationships with people, our relationships with the planet.
Yes.
And that it's that moment that's going to define where we go moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. That's what it is. That's something. Now that you've said all that, let me just say what I discovered as a result of this investigation. When my guy said, we gave you something in 2012. I go, why? How did I notice? I didn't see it. And then I started doing all this research. I kept looking at the messages, trying to prove them wrong. And I couldn't, because they were really great. I couldn't understand why I didn't know that. Anyway, so then weeks went on and I started investigating. And then I discovered that, there was a 2012 phenomenon. I go, so I started studying that. And then that led me somewhere else. And they said, that was the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012. And people thought the world was going to end, and that's what was happening. And my Wilhelm said, no, we didn't think that. We told you to wait. We told you to wait and develop, because that's where you're going now. That's what you're doing. You're going to usher in a new world. And so this was the time that you meant to do that. And then they took me back to show me the messages that they gave me in 2012 that related to this time now. Wow. And that which was the only thing that caused me to accept a bit more, because I resisted. like everybody does. When you
Yes.
feel something, no. Anyway.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, so for my final question
Yes.
of the day, we're coming up on our
Mhm.
the end of our time here today, and I'm curious what you would tell your 18-year-old self.
That's such a hard question because that no one's going to get this, but I'm going to explain it. I've gone through so much. I've gone through in my life and been suffering things that no one person should have done. The first title of my book was going to be Overcoming Everything. My program was going to be, that's what I did. And you would think that I didn't want any of that stuff to happen. However, I can sit here now and say, because it did happen, I'm this evolved person that's more in love with himself than ever before, where he hated every aspect of him. So how could I have gotten there if I hadn't lived all of that? So that's why that question is like, maybe it's trust. That's all. That's what I would tell my 18-year-old self, trust. Nothing else.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, Roger,
right.
I want to thank you so much for being here today. Is there a way that folks can get in contact with you? And could you share with them briefly a message that you would like to have them hear?
Yes. First of all, they can reach me on my site on rogerburnley.com. ROGERBURNLEY.com. And what I want them to remember is that they have something magnificent within them that is meant to come out now, which is why they're feeling nervous and uncomfortable. That's okay. They'll get through it. That's why they're here, is to bring through something that's going to add a magnificence to the world that's going to cause things to change.
Well, thank you so much, Roger, for being here with me to share this first experience.
It's such an honor. I can't tell you.
I feel the same. It is,
right.
It's been a beautiful conversation and so validating
Good.
to all of the things that are happening, and
Perfect.
knowing that we're all here to help serve people so that they can become the best versions of themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Great.
Well, thank you. And I wish you a beautiful new year.
Thanks. And the same to you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Transformational Art with Katana. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and share the link to this podcast with your family and friends. To connect with me personally, please send an email to transformationalartwithkatana@gmail.com. Have a beautiful day.